That's so, when you talked about the attachments, you talked about all of the different challenges that, people were going through, and recognizing the repetition of the cycle, as I like to tell people. Believe it or not, Ian, we are addicted to our cyclical patterns
Yeah.
because they give us, as I said, this false sense of safety, knowing that we're doing something in a continuous way, and this helps us cope with the real problem. Now, this word, cope, this is a huge, huge, huge word that I like to use because we at the Inner Yats, like my coaches and myself, we don't actually use the word addictions as much. And I learned this personally from a very, very famous therapist around the world. His name is Dr. Gabor Mate. And he talks a lot about inner child healing, about like trauma, that comes about. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, survival is the basic need of the human species. Now, if I have such a big pain that's going on with me, and we think survival is just about physical, and that's bullshit because we're more mental almost than physical. In fact, the physical is very much the manifestation of the mental. It's how we experience what's going on in the brain and our body. So let's say I've gone through a bad breakup. You talked about a bad breakup with someone. So that's pain in my brain. This pain in my brain is being felt in my body, in my heart, felt in my gut, in my stomach. It's actually even being felt by how I'm putting on weight, because the cortisol and the stress hormones I'm putting on are meant to protect me and get me to feel like, okay, this is a really scary, stressful situation. I'm going to have to deal with this by hibernating, by hunkering down. Now, at the same time, if I've got this really heavy pain and I don't know how to solve it. I don't have an avenue to solve it. I don't have someone who can help me solve it. But the pain is very large. I need to do fucking something about it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to turn to something that distracts me from it. I'm going to turn to something that helps me suppress it. I'm going to turn to something that helps me numb it. And since this is the next level guy show, for example, men very, very strongly, because they don't understand how to cope with their own emotional self, they use alcohol as a method to numb that part of them that no one in their own lives gave them the education on how to understand. Why? Because they themselves had fathers who didn't know how to handle their own emotions, or had like a family which didn't give them a safe space for their emotions. So now these men, predominantly men, and it can be men and women, become alcoholics. But there's something really interesting that happens when someone drinks. When someone drinks, their social inhibition drops. And so what's true beneath starts to come out. So for a lot of alcoholics, that's rage. That's rage and that's anger because they haven't found a healthy way to talk about it, work through it, and process it. For a lot of
Mm.
men, and I have friends, they start to cry because they haven't had a safe space to feel afraid or to feel sad or to feel soft or even talk about their emotions because they're viewed upon as being weak. And so these mechanisms, whether you call it drugs, like even if it's heroin, and these are really dangerous things we're talking about, they give people who've gone through trauma a temporary sense of relief, a temporary sense of coping that allows them to feel like, holy shit, you know what? This monster of emotions that's undealt within me, or the monster of trauma that's undealt within me, for even a few seconds, I'm distracted from it. Now, the challenge and the problem is that not all coping mechanisms, we call addictions coping mechanisms, which are basically just mechanisms that people learn or like from their environment, or they adapt in order to survive with their trauma. You can have really healthy coping mechanisms.